Buccaneers safety has gotten officially waived from the team. According to reports, this decision to waive Sanders was in connection to an on-field incident in which Sanders would end up striking opposing players.
I'm proud of my kids, all of them. And I prepared my kids for any and everything that could possibly happen in life and in sport.
Eric Dickerson just set the NFL world on fire after dropping a bold claim about Shiloh Sanders being cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if even part of it hold water, it could finally explain why Deion Sanders' sons keep finding themselves tangled in league controversy. In just one chaotic week, the Sanders brothers made more headlines than some vets make in an entire year, and not for good reasons. Shiloh got tossed out of a preseason game after squaring up with another player. Hours later, the Bucs dropped him without hesitation. But the spotlight didn't let up, because Shiloh Sanders was next. He got sacked a painful 5 times in just one half a play before being benched, barely having time to show what he could do. And the media? They smelled blood instantly, pushing the narrative that Shiloh doesn't even deserve an NFL jersey. To casual fans, it might look like 2 young players struggling to adjust. But according to Eric Dickerson, that surface-level view misses the entire point. He insists this mess is about more than football, it's about politics. Dickerson argues that the NFL has been waiting for its moment to humble the Sanders family. And Shiloh's abrupt release? That was their first chess move. The problem, he claims, has little to do with on-field performance. It's about optics. The league doesn't like the fact that Deion Sanders...
3 days until roster cutdowns. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously.
a.k.a. Coach Prime, has built an empire while refusing to play by their rules. The flash, the speeches, the cameras, the prime-time attitude, they see it as rebellion against tradition. And now, it looks like his sons are taking hits for it. Dickerson's argument is blunt. The league is trying to make an example out of Deion's kids, hit the sons to clip Coach Prime's wings. He insists none of this is random. It's about protecting the machine by taking down anyone who sticks out. If you watch football long enough, you see the pattern. Perfect timing, dramatic headlines, the convenient disciplined story. Everything about how this unfolded smells manufactured. That's the part that's got people yelling foul. The NFL's history is full of moves to freeze out players who won't play by the company script. We've all heard execs use lines like inmates running the prison, and people keep pointing to those plantation-era power dynamics that never truly died. Different faces, same energy, just a new playlist for modern PR. So what's going on with the Sanders clan? Dickerson says it's the same old playbook.
In a discussion about player protests during the national anthem, Houston Texans owner Bob McNair said, quote, "We can't have the inmates running the prison."
Only upgraded for the social media era and faster viral hits. Let's break this down step by step, starting with Shiloh. He was literally a day away from what could have been his first regular season snap, a lifelong dream about to come true. Then everything blew up in a blink during that preseason scuffle. He got mixed up with Bills tight end Zach Davidson. Tempers flared, and the footage cut fast to chaos. Cameras even caught Davidson grabbing Shiloh's face mask after the whistle, and that clip spread like wildfire. That single moment is what Dickerson says a league used to light the fuse. That's the part that makes people pause. Because if you strip the names out, this looks like every other dust-up we've seen in the league for decades. But instead of letting the heat die down, Tampa treated it like a coriander. One swing, one preseason scuffle, and suddenly Shiloh Sanders is persona non grata. The speed of it all felt less like discipline and more like a message. Think about the optics. A coach distancing himself, a franchise washing its hands, and the league machine already moving on.
I know you can't throw punches in this league. That's inexcusable. They're going to get you everything. Got to grow from that.
And then what did you say to the officials after that? It looked like you were possibly trying to
Talk about another.
That's not just football justice, it's politics. Shiloh wasn't given the luxury of teaching moments that other players, sometimes with longer rap sheets, often get. His mistake became a headline, a label, and a door slammed shut. And that's why Eric Dickerson's comments hit a nerve. Because if this was just about a punch, history says Shiloh would still be in uniform. Instead, it looks like a pattern. Punish the son, pressure the father. And in the NFL, perception is power. Once the media paints you as a problem, good luck getting the eraser out. Want me to keep this rolling into Shaday's side of the saga next, so the script builds momentum around both brothers? No accountability, no balance, just every ounce of blame dumped squarely on Shiloh's shoulders. But here's the real kicker. It wasn't only that he threw a punch. The ref was right there, watching Davidson yank Shiloh's face mask off the whistle. Clear, textbook unnecessary roughness. Still, no flag. Nothing. How does that happen unless somebody already had it out for him from the jump? The optics are ugly, and people aren't blind to it. Remember, this isn't new for Shiloh. Back at Colorado, he got tossed for targeting on a hit plenty of fans called clean. Commentators even call that cool week. Now fast forward to the preseason scrap, and one angry moment cost him his NFL shot. Meanwhile, Zach Davidson walks away scot-free. No flag, no fine, no suspension. That lopsided treatment screams double standard, and the narrative lines up too neatly to be just coincidence. Then came the spin. Davidson told reporters he didn't provoke anything, that Shiloh just lost it over being blocked, and the media lapped it up. Suddenly, the headline reads, Shiloh the hothead versus Zach the innocent victim. It
felt like you kind of were just finishing your block through the play, and he just felt some sort of way about it.
Yeah, something on the backside of screens weak breaches. The guy on the backside is making the touchdown block. I was just chasing the far deep DB and trying to finish through the whistle, and he had a little bit more to say.
Did you say to him, you're too small?
I didn't say anything. I may have gestured something, but if you get mad for getting blocked, I can't really control what he does.
It's insulting how skewed the coverage was. You don't have to be a Sanders stan to see the bias. The imbalance in how the story was told was louder than the play itself. So yeah, can you blame fans for smelling sabotage? Social exploded with conspiracy threads. Set up, ref told to wait, players instructed to start something. One post flat out said, the league is conspiring against that family. After watching the tape and the speed at which Shiloh was cut, it's hard not to think there's a bigger playbook being used here. Here's where things get even messier. Just days before Shiloh's fallout, Shedeur found himself tangled in his own late-game controversy against the Browns. It was a preseason showcase, Rams on the field, final 2 minutes, perfect time for Shedeur to prove he could handle pressure, but out of nowhere Kevin Stefanski yanked him and put Tyler Huntley in. Fans smelled something off immediately. Now people are flat out accusing Stefanski of sabotaging Shedeur as part of a wider plan to knock down the Sanders name. The online reaction was nuclear. One fan on X blasted, Kevin Stefanski pledged allegiance to Jim Crow just to prove Shedeur doesn't belong. Another wrote, they decided long before the draft, Stefanski's just bold enough to show it. Go to a better team, Sanders. These aren't throwaway hot takes. These are fans convinced the deck was stacked before Shedeur ever stepped on an NFL field. The chatter kept building because the move made zero sense otherwise. Let's be real. If Shaday's job was secure, he wouldn't be yanked in crunch time for another QB to shine. Coaches don't make those swaps by accident, and that's exactly why conspiracy talk kept growing louder. Fans argue this isn't strictly football anymore. It's politics.
What I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told others, don't draft him, do not draft him. Make an example. And this came from a very good source, And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't draft him.
Really?
Yep, draft him. Don't. So they weren't going to draft him either. They weren't going to draft him.
Pride and control all rolled into one messy narrative. Every benching, every snap looked like a message aimed way above the gridiron. Then Eric Dickerson poured fuel on the flames. He went public claiming the NFL's been gunning for the Sanders family from day one. Dickerson even says a league source admitted teams were warned of drafting Shedeur because of powers that be wanted to humble Coach Prime and his movement. It's a heavy allegation, but Dickerson stands by it, and now the whole story feels less like isolated incidents and more like a coordinated pushback. And to be real, this isn't the first time these whispers have circled. Mike Florio once hinted at the same thing, saying the league was actively looking for a way to check Shedeur because he wouldn't bow down and kiss the Shield's ring. Translation: Shedeur wasn't just battling defenses, he was battling politics. But here's where the debate splits. Some fans brush Eric Dickerson off, claiming he's got his own history of beef with the league. and might just be projecting his grudges onto the Sanders saga. Then you've got the critics doubling down. They argue conspiracies don't matter because Shedeur just isn't ready. Daniel Kelly, a former Jet scout, went so far as to post receipts on X. He dragged out Shedeur's pre-draft report, saying flat out, "I put an undrafted free agent grade on him. Bottom line, he wasn't good enough and is not good enough." To Kelly, the problem wasn't politics. It was pure performance. But even if you buy that, the timing still feels shady as hell. Think about it. Shiloh gets tossed for a fight that most players would have eaten a fine for. Shedeur gets benched at the exact moment that could have shown his clutch factor. And now insiders are whispering that teams were warned off drafting him altogether. That doesn't feel random. That feels orchestrated. History proves the league has no issue freezing out families who won't play the political game. Just ask the players before the Sanders boys who got stamped locker room distractions and quietly erased. Meanwhile, the Sanders brand stretches way beyond football. Deion flipped college recruiting upside down, brought Hollywood cameras to Colorado, and showed that culture could challenge tradition. To NFL executives stuck in their old ways, that's dangerous. Fans online are blunt. This isn't about Shedeur or Shiloh. This is about silencing Coach Prime before his influence infects the NFL. Another viral post put it plain. They don't want a new wave of players demanding freedom, spotlight, and culture. And social media is not letting it slide. Posts keep going viral pointing out how Shiloh and Shedeur get punished for slip-ups that barely make the ticker when other rookies do them. One fan wrote, "They are scared of Deion's influence. If his boys succeed, it proves his whole movement works, and the NFL doesn't want that." Another added, "Notice how every mistake they make is magnified 10 times louder than anyone else's. That's not coincidence." Fans are connecting dots, and the narrative is snowballing fast. Even Kelly's scouting report, painting Shedeur as hesitant, inconsistent, and maxed out at Colorado, hasn't killed the conversation. Why? Because other quarterbacks with the same flaws get patience, coaching, and time to grow. Shedeur gets mocked like his career's already dead. That's why fans point back to Deion. They believe this isn't about talent. It's about crushing the Sanders legacy before it gets too big to contain. One viral comment from a black Marine Corps vet summed it up. "This is a tale as old as time. A young black man stands tall, raised with confidence, and the system will do anything to cut him down." Another fan took it even further, calling it a systemic epidemic of white America punishing black fathers who raise their sons to know their worth. That's no longer just football talk. That's culture, race, and power colliding on the NFL's biggest stage. And history backs it up. Over and over, black athletes have faced harsher punishments, heavier scrutiny, and way less patience than their peers. Now the Sanders family looks like the next chapter in that same old book. The double standard is loud, it's ugly, and fans aren't afraid to call it for what it is. But here's the piece that cuts the deepest. Deion Sanders isn't cracking under the pressure one bit. When asked about Shiloh getting waived, he didn't blink. His answer? He's not worried, because his sons will be just fine with or without the NFL. That level of confidence says everything. Coach Prime is sending a message loud and clear. The Sanders family doesn't need validation from the league. The league might actually need them. So now it falls to you. Do you think the NFL is really trying to break down the Sanders boys just to humble Deion? Or are these simply the brutal growing pains of two young players navigating the hardest league on earth? And here's a $1,000,000 question. Does the NFL secretly fear that it needs Deion's sons more than Shiloh and Shedeur need the shield? Drop your take in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe, and lock in, because the next headline coming out of this saga is only going to rattle the league even harder.